Hey, RetconRaider here, and welcome back to Warhammer 40k, Rogue Trader. As today, we stay on a steady concourse. The governor shouldn't be too much farther now, but before we go meet up with him, we actually have one other thing to do down here in the sewers. Because, seriously, this offshoot path here did not read at all to me as being something we could actually walk on.
Pay attention.
This Explorator is blessed with multifunctionality.
So that gets us a Blessed Cape. Increases melee attack damage against demons by +2. If the wearer is dogmatic, the damage increases by +4 instead. Okay, so pretty much made for Heinrichs. I mean, technically, someone like Abelard could still get use out of it, but +2 against a relatively uncommon foe type isn't a great use for his cloak slot. Especially as a tank. See, I'm used to things like that just being purely decorational. That's why I glossed over that catwalk the first time through. Okay, so we are cutting straight across the main chamber here, and heading for that third exit that we noted last time we were here. Because I double-checked the upper area, and there's only 2 exits up there.
Always keep your eye on the price.
Yeah, one comes up near the ruined manor house, the other comes up near the steamy walkway. So I'm curious to see where this one takes us. Loading screen looks standard. We've seen this one before. Oh, interesting. We're on a completely new map. Also, hello, Layla. How are you? Why are you trying to crawl on my shirt? It's not that cold. I've got it at like 70 in here. The light! It's in me! It's inside! It's killing me!
Is there money to be made?
Bye, Layla. She didn't like that light was in me. Oh, here we go. Some 10 people, children among them, are huddling together in fear. You see that half of them have black holes where their eyes used to be. Some maintain a gloomy silence, others are wailing. Several armed insurgents are carefully watching over the terrified hostages, snapping every now and then at someone for shaking too much or crying too loudly. Come to your senses, Harold! Look what you're doing to your family! A woman of about 60, gray-haired but strong, is kneeling before a stocky man with a thick, pure white beard, stretching her arms toward him. Take pity on us! Let us go! Stop talking and embrace redemption! Our children have gained true sight, while you still believe the lie! Upon seeing you, the man points his weapon in your direction. The other insurgents do the same. Who are you, and why are you here? I could ask the same. Who are you, and what are you doing to these poor people? I'm the chief. My former name, Harold, is meaningless now. I am a father leading his family to deliverance from woes, to salvation. Aurora has opened my eyes to the truth, and my children will see it. Herald, spare us! Spare your children! His mind and soul are pierced by shards of a colorful deception. Hues, once twisted by despair and the Immaterium's influence, can never be the same again. Pascal's Vox hisses furiously.
Layperson, cognition is not your primary function. You are saving your kin by holding them at gunpoint, and believe that burning their eyes will grant them sight. It is evident that the author of the demagogic teaching that confused you meant to make a mockery of your deplorable intellect.
Abelard's face turns a deep red. To cast your own children into the thrall of heresy. To drown your progeny in this filth with your own hands. Yeah, it's not great. So all these people, this is your family. All of my adopted and blood children are here. I raised them all as my own. And now I must protect them. Help them see. You're insane. Why would you think that this would actually help them? You're the one hurting them. I do this at Aurora's behest. Aurora is a great prophet and a great warrior. Their face is shrouded, but their gaze pierces the veil of time and sees into the future. I always knew the governor's dogs were hiding the truth from us, and now the day has come. A prophet has come to Rykad Minoris and opened our eyes. The end of the world is coming, the final dawn, and only those who accept Aurora's truth will survive it. What you're doing is wrong. You're scared and confused and lashing out at the people around you. This isn't going to help or save anyone. Even if they do somehow survive what's coming, it'll be scarred and traumatized. Is that really what you want? But all I wanted was to save... The man drops his weapon and covers his face with his hands in desperation. You hear several short sobs. There's no washing the blood from your hands. But you could at least let us go, Herald. The ones you haven't mutilated yet. No, let them go too. The old man gestures to the other insurgents, who lower their weapons. Then he shifts his gaze to you, trying to hold back tears. What happens to us now? Oh, man. I mean, look, I really want to be Mr. Iconoclast, but I've got to say, you burned the eyes out of children. If ever there was a moment when the iron fist of Imperial judgment should descend on someone, I've got to say, this is probably it. Your family will be kept safe. Hopefully some of the damage can be undone. But your role in their lives is over. The only thing you can provide them with now is closure. The old man's body falls to the ground. As soon as the hostages see it, they start moving faster, and soon disappear around the bend. We're in one piece. Everything will be all right, won't it? Poor old man. I tried to talk him out of it. Alright, well, I didn't say the insurgents could go. They were part of this too, but... fair enough, I suppose.
What do we have here?
But yeah. You know, I mean, I do like the idea of helping people, of finding diplomatic compromise in this grimdark world of absolutes. But you know, I've got limits. I have to draw the line somewhere, and... Yikes. Join up at your hive's nearest Astra Militarum Mobile Conscription Center.
Rise to the top, or get left in the dust.
Alright, okay, yeah, that looks about right. We might reasonably hit rank 1 of Dogmatic and Hereticus, but I can't imagine we'll hit rank 2, not with how sparingly we're choosing those options. Ah, okay, so that leads back to the center of the bridge, where we just were. Not really sure what practical purpose that tunnel served. Like, I mean, we could have theoretically bypassed the fight at the flat gun. But realistically, we would still need to go back and take out that gun anyway. Because otherwise we wouldn't be able to leave the planet. They'd just shoot us down. Though I suppose it would have let us come at them from a different angle. We could have hit them from behind.
Never doubt me.
Clearly oblivious to your presence, the soldier mutters incoherently, and does not react to anything around him. I'm sure he's fine. We'll just, we'll carry this burden for him. Good luck, I guess. Arise! Let us welcome the new light together! Hard pass, but I will take this. Ancient Terra Monocle. Which keys Imperial lore off Fellowship? Interesting. Sadly, not much use to us. Maybe if we were going full officer with Cassia, but as it currently stands, Valen's got a lock on Imperial lore.
I always keep my options open.
Once we've picked up our last couple of companions, I'll take a step back, reevaluate our skill spread. Sorry, just double-checking our current headgear. +3 logic is eminently replaceable, but obviously not with something that keys off Fellowship. The cover was haphazardly assembled from whatever the rebels could find.
Always keep your eye on the prize.
Bridge dead ends here. Can't move up closer to the rubble. The goods in this stall are a stark contrast to the rest of the nearby shops. The jars are labeled, "All-Purpose Synth Powder, fills you up no matter what. Made in Necromunda's best factories." Oh, Necromunda.
Is there money to be made?
It is a crying shame they cannot seem to make a decent game based off the Necromunda property. That was my tabletop skirmish game of choice back in the day.
Searching is my observance.
I had such high hopes for Underhive Wars, but my goodness. Quite possibly one of the worst games I've played since I started the channel. Hence why you have never seen me do anything with it on the channel.
Rise to the top or get left in the dust.
As a general rule of thumb, I try not to play things that I simply do not enjoy. And that one, my goodness. Practically had me breaking out in hives. Good atmosphere, though. For what that was worth.
I always have a backup plan.
Hey, command center, we made it. Looks clear out here, so let's head inside. We'll knock out that level up, then have a chat with the governor. The formidable shells for large caliber weapons are being stored right here in the command center. A solitary young tech priest is offering ceaseless prayers to the machine spirits of the command center. Alright, well, good luck with that, I guess. Welcome to the Reichad Minoris Command Center. Emperor protect you, your lordship.
Keep your wits about you.
Tech Priest Quartz Crane. Oop, They're scrabbling around, digging into my skull from the inside. It's like nails dragging down these metal walls.
I have conducted a visual survey of the locale. The bunker's metal cladding is fully intact and undamaged.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's what she was talking about, Bask, but thanks. Good to know. The painfully thin tech priest turns sharply toward you. The sudden movement makes his chrome dogmatics briefly clang. His gray eyes, set under furrowed brows, almost blend into the pale skin of his face, and he levels you with a heavy, dour stare.
Identification. Unit Logis Quartz Crane, official trade representative of the Explorator Cognizance Fleet. The unit supervises supply routes in the Reichad system, ensures the security of the combat arsenal, performs commercial transactions, and secures mutually beneficial contracts.
When the tech priest notices Pascal, his eyes widen. His Vox unit immediately lets out a string of screeching binaric, a tortuously long tirade in which the volume rises and falls seemingly at random. When it is over, the Omnissiah's servant bows his head in deference.
Unit Quartz Crane requests permission to transfer information. The rogue trader possesses a supreme degree of power, the potential to influence the current leadership, the ability to restore order in the Reichad system.
Pask, he seemed to have an awful lot to say to you. What was that?
A detailed complaint. I recommend you consider Unit Quartz Crane's request to transfer information.
Okay, let's hear it then. Permission granted. The tech priest says, sharply and curtly.
Haphazard and careless decisions on the part of the Reichad Minoris governor have led to unacceptable consequences. Communications with the Adeptus Mechanicus Sanctum has been lost. Troops must be sent to the hallowed electrodynamic cenobium without delay. Restoring communications with the Electro Priest and ensuring the Sanctum security are our top priorities. You are the head of a rogue trader dynasty. Your position enables you to exert influence.
The tech priest pauses for a moment.
And pressure on the subjects of the Imperium. Unit Quartz Crane requests assistance. The actions of Governor Faisal Reichadi Ab Medina Af Caronis must be influenced. Demand that troops be sent to the holy monastery of the Adeptus Mechanicus. I observe that this world's authorities lack diligence in the performance of their duties. This statement is true.
United in their denunciation and brimming with righteous criticism, the pair in red exchange knowing nods. I love these guys. Alright, well, I mean, I'm sure the governor's handling things as best he is able, but yeah, I'll talk to him.
Unit Quartz Crane is grateful. The rogue trader is highly likely to successfully influence the future actions of the local authorities.
You're an explorator, right? Like Pascal. What are you doing here? Didn't think you guys settled down.
Retrieving archived data. Over 70 Terran years ago, the governor of Reichad Minoris and authorized representatives of the Explorator Cognizance Fleet made an agreement. Its goal was mutual benefit through cooperation. Unit Logis Quartz Crane is the fleet's appointed trade agent. The unit is responsible for maintenance of the arsenal and the combat machinery. Blessed are the armorers, for there can be no Imperium without them. Blessed are the valiant warriors, for there is no end to the darkness without them.
The Omnissiah's servants exchange short binaric mantras, filled with intimidating solemnity. Right, so, I get why you're here, but what about the rest of the fleet?
The Cognizance fleet's presence in the Rycad system is negligible. Its research activities in the system have been concluded. A limited presence is maintained for the purpose of logistical support. Fulfillment of vows to maintain the Omnissiah's creations. Spiritual oversight.
Okay, understood. All right, Kramer, show me your arsenal. What do you got? And right off the bat, leading with an item of potential use. The Analyst's Helmet. When killing a target with exploits using a sniper rifle, the nearest enemy immediately gains 1 extra exploit. Plus a stack of multi-keys. We'll take those. Ooh, Psychic Body Glove. And a number of other potentially useful items. Okay, you know what? Let's hit the pause button real quick. I'm going to take care of some off-screen bookkeeping, figure out what we're doing with these level ups. And we will be right back. Hey, we're back. We're going to hold off on trading just yet, but let's run through these level ups. And the 2 big things to take away for this level up are that we're coming up on our last 2 full talent slots for our current archetypes. And for most, but not all of our characters, this is the level we get our 5th floating skill point, which essentially means this is our Medicae level up. Just so we can use kits, but we won't be taking it further on anyone but Pascal. And then for our talents, we're essentially just shoring up our already existing builds. In Valen's case, we're going for Sharpshooter and Ballistics Calculation. Though if we did have a 3rd slot, we'd also go for Sniper Expertise. Sadly, we just don't have room for it, and it is the weakest of the 3, so it'll have to go by the wayside. We'll still be grabbing Perfect Spot, though. That'll be level 12. And let's start with Ballistics. That one's slightly easier to trigger. After that, we've got our skill, and as aforementioned, we're going to sink a single point into Medicae. Since we have multiple operatives, we have a lot of redundancy when it comes to skill spread. We will have slightly more options when we hit our advanced archetypes, but I feel like we're already pretty well set here. Next up, we've got Abby, who actually gets his 2nd class ability early. And right off the bat, I'll say there is some temptation to go Breakthrough. That's a pretty great mobile offense ability. But, you know, we have no shortage of offense, and Abby's our only dedicated tank, so it makes more sense to lean him into that. That said, we'll go ahead and grab Sworn Enemy instead. That's a nice solid single target tank ability, though it does also have some offense and utility mixed in. As for his common talent, no question there, we'll grab Dueling Mastery. Make him even tankier. And that's it for Abby. Now we've got Adira, another operative, so she gets the skill and full talent. Again, there is some temptation to grab at least 1 operative talent for her, just to kind of round out her exploit management. But as a primary psyker, you know, it just makes more sense to keep her on that track instead. Especially since she can now boost her psi rating. She can do that once every 10 levels. And that, I think, needs to be priority over pretty much everything else. And then for skills, pretty much the same reasoning I used for Valen. No real point in boosting tech use, logic, or any non-warp lore skills. She's already capped on her 2 primaries, so we'll go 1 point into Medicae. She won't be very good with kits, but at least she'll be able to use them. And we will be boosting her intelligence. Willpower just takes precedence. Which brings us to Argenta, and much like Abby, she gets her second ability early. Now, normally with her, I would go Dash, just so she can get some distance whenever she gets pinned down. But that's a much lower priority, now that we know that Flamers can be used at point blank. So instead, I think we'll go ahead and invest in Rapid Fire. That'll give her some nice versatility between AoE and burst attacks. That aside, it's pretty much mandatory if we want to go Heavy Bolter. As for skills, it's a little weird with her because I noticed soldiers are the only class that get 4 skill slots instead of 5 like everyone else. So she does not get a 5th floating skill slot. Rather, we're just picking her second primary skill. We're never going to be boosting her intelligence, which makes her an inherently poor choice for Medicae. And we've already given her demolitions, so logically, awareness is a good one to pair with that. That aside, it's just a good idea in general to have multiple awareness characters anyway. Especially since Adira tends to bury herself all the way in back. Which brings us to Cassia, who gets a talent and a characteristic. And talent-wise, still some temptation to grab at least one more officer talent. Maybe Lasting Impression? I might grab that with her last slot. That one's fairly solid. It's a nice full combat buff for anyone she commands. That said, given that at level 12 we're upgrading Notch, I think this slot is better used for Perilous Ways. That's the unique navigator talent that adds a damage component to all of her forced move abilities. That, combined with Point of Curiosity, will essentially make her a mook meat grinder. Still thinking about Lasting Impression, though. As for her stat boost, no question there. We'll cap out her Fellowship. That'll bump her up to a total of 60. That bumps her social skills up to a slightly more respectable level. And Pascal, who, much like Valen, will actually be focused on operative stuff, instead of just tossing it by the wayside. Though I will say, it is a tricky choice, because he also has numerous unique Tech Priest talents that can only be taken with a full talent slot. So I'm kind of making the conscious decision here to focus on operative for now, but then basically completely ignore his advanced archetype. So essentially, he's going to be a full operative / Tech Priest. In the short term, though, our main goal is to continue playing off his operative side, and since he needs a bit more staying power in combat, we are going with Offensive Pattern Prediction. That'll give him a scaling, intelligence-based boost to damage reduction, which, as near as I can tell, is even better than just boosting armor, since armor can be pierced. As for skill, it's actually kind of hard to say. He's already capped in his 2 primaries, and this is a floating 5th point. It's either awareness for a slight boost to our chance to spot hidden objects, which is of questionable use, because we're never going to be boosting his perception. Or it's logic, and that would purely be for the off chance that we happen to come across more logic scaling gear, like his starting armor, which didn't scale well and we've already removed, so, once again, a fairly questionable investment. But, given our lack of good options, we'll just go logic. Who knows, maybe we'll get lucky. I'm not too worried about it long term. And that's it. Level up complete. Let's chat up the governor, then we'll see how we're doing on time. The tall, dark-skinned man turns toward you and greets you in a curt, military manner. Faisal Raikati ab Medina af Caronis, governor of this star system. Welcome to my temporary headquarters. The man's gaze falls on Abelard, his eyes slightly narrow. Wersurian? Abelard nods dryly. Governor Medina, my greetings. The governor's expression changes drastically when he sees Cassia. Lady Navigator, what an honor! I never thought that House Orselia would grace our world with a visit. I only wish I could have received you under different circumstances. Cassia purses her lips, and an echo of grief knocks the wind out of those present. House Orselia is grateful for the support that you have provided to Urak 5 these many years. I'm not seeing the convoy I'd sent to meet you. What happened? Did they fail to find and escort you? If that is so, I promise you their punishment will be swift and severe. Hold on, let's back things up a step. Is there some history between you and my man Abby that I should be made aware of? No, of course not. An old misunderstanding, over a century old by now. It isn't worth your time, Lord Captain. Fair enough, but we're talking about this later. Your convoy was ambushed and massacred, betrayed by one of their own. The one surviving soldier was a traitor. He tried to kill me too, so I took care of it. That is an outrage. I will have the personnel vetting procedure changed immediately. The slightest suspicion will be grounds for arrest. Well, I mean, you don't... Actually, I suppose given the circumstances, that might not be a bad idea. Short term, anyway. Your Lordship, before we proceed with discussing the matters that are of interest to you, there is a question I feel compelled to ask. It was only recently that Lady Theodora was the head of House von Valancius. I have received no word of her demise. How is it that you are now the rogue traitor? We were attacked on the way here. Lady Theodora was killed. Apparently it was part of some grand overarching plot tied into whatever's happening in Rykad. I barely made it out alive myself. The governor frowns, and a deep shadow falls over his face. Rogue traitor von Valancius. Slain. Unthinkable. Please accept my deepest and most sincere condolences, your lordship. Do not hesitate to let me know how I might be of help. All right, well, here's your chance. I lost 2,000 men fighting off the heretics. I'll need replacement crew, officers, and specialists. I also provided direct material support to help hold your landing pads. I expect to be compensated for that. The governor bows his head in acceptance. Of course, your lordship. You will be compensated for any losses, and I'll see to it personally that your ship's holds are filled with the finest goods from my personal reserves. Hey, +2 profit factor. Very nice. Abelard nods in approval and remarks quietly. Excellent, your lordship. A rogue traitor has no use for leniency. I can offer several thousand fine, obedient servants. However, I'm sad to inform you that I won't be able to do it until after we've dealt with the insurgency on the planet. I'm sure you won't have to wait long. The rabble will soon be duly punished for their heretical scheming. You sure about that, Medina? Based on what I've seen since I got here, you're a long ways from putting this thing down. If anything, it's just getting worse. Is that so? The governor maintains his composure. I'd like to hear your reasoning. Okay. They're far too organized. They have inside men and they've compromised your communications. Their leader Aurora is a prophetess. She's reading the movements of your troops and ordering her minions to counter them. They've also tapped into the ruinous powers. I fought multiple demons just to get here. Honestly, if I hadn't arrived when I did, this city would have already been lost. The governor's eyes darken, but your unwavering gaze makes him give in. All right. Perhaps I've underestimated the mutiny, writing it off as the rabble's usual nonsense. However, if it does involve corruption and an underground cult, this needs to be investigated. I'll assign additional resources to it and take the issue seriously. You have my word, your lordship. Glad to hear it. Let's just hope it's not too late. And while you're at it, Lady Theodora's former Master of Whispers, Conrad Voigtmir von Valancius, is part of whatever's going on here. If you come across anything related to him or his activities in this sector, I am to be informed immediately. Voigtmir is a traitor? Why, any family, however noble, has an unworthy scion or two. Naturally, we will surrender him should we find him within my jurisdiction. Unfortunately, I have no information regarding his location. However, the governor pauses to think. We have a cogitator here at the command center. It's connected to a data crypt from Largus Abel's sanctum. It aggregated all the lexomechanic reports. Unfortunately, the access prayer for it is unknown to me. If you manage to convince the stubborn machine, you might learn something about Conrad's movements. I'd hazard he fled from you on a ship, not on a pair of wings. Right, thanks. I was really hoping for something more concrete, but I suppose I can console myself. While I've got you, I'd like to commend one of your men, Sergeant Malgar. He was the only one of your teams that actually succeeded in holding one of the landing pads. The sergeant who managed to impress a person of such noble standing will certainly be recommended for decoration. Oh, and, I suppose I should ask. I was told that, an interrogator, Heinrich van Kalox, came to meet you about something. Is he still around here somewhere? The governor lowers his voice. I do. Master van Kalox has left for the hallowed electrodynamic cenobium. It's an ancient monastery of the Adeptus Mechanicus. I don't know what his objectives are. Needless to say, insurgent activity has been observed in the monastery's vicinity, but I suppose that's too petty of a problem for an agent of the Most Holy Inquisition. Besides, I have already sent a small detachment of reinforcements there. The weapon the insurgents were using to shoot down shuttles over the city has been destroyed. Now nothing is preventing you from returning to your ship. If you wish to find Master van Kalox, you should go to the cenobium of the Adeptus Mechanicus. Notes of anxiety creep into the voice that rattles from Pascal's Vox.
On behalf of the priesthood of Mars, I, Magos Hanuman, am officially initiating my participation in the operation. I must inspect the state of the relic and assure myself that it is under zero risk of falling into heretic hands. According to the Catechism of Maintenance and Operation, my tech comrades were supposed to lock the monastery gates against laypeople and activate the traps. I deem it optimal that an ordained Magos should provide his assistance.
I categorically object. The governor clenches his fist. As much as I respect the sanctity of your monastery, I have on my hands a whole capital that needs to be attended by the Omnissiah's servants. We have lost many eminent tech priests. Incidentally, one of them perished in that same monastery. Mechanical failures could occur at any moment. Putting it bluntly, you may consider yourself forcibly recruited into the city's defense forces. Medina and Pascal glare at each other, their unyielding gazes like crossed swords. I've got to say, Medina, this is an odd time for you to be picking fights with your allies. A critical situation calls for decisive action. I simply cannot let every learned tech priest go to their death the moment they hear about an endangered relic. I need people who can do more than praise the Omnissiah to look after the capital and its millions of citizens. Look, I get that, I do. But by my count, you've got at least a dozen tech priests on hand already. This one's with me. You mistake me for a fool. I know that he arrived separately from you, and I would bet my life that no... The governor's voice dies down in the low growl of a drilling mechadendrite. Its tip is directed straight at the bridge of his nose. Medina clears his throat and grumbles stubbornly. So, this is the negotiation technique you have resorted to? Do you think this is the first time I have been threatened with a weapon?
No, but this could be your last.
Pascal's voice is akin to the sound produced by his drilling implement. Steady and calm, but ready to explode at a moment's notice with the crunching of bone and the squelch of tearing flesh.
I am heading to the monastery because I must. Is that clear?
The governor mutters through gritted teeth. Abundantly so, Magos. Pascal, you're getting pretty worked up about this. Is this just about the relic, or is there something more?
It is why I came to this world. I am expected there.
Alright, look. I'm happy to help, but only as long as it doesn't get in our way. Our priority is stopping this insurgency, understand?
Yes. Thank you for your cooperation, your lordship.
The drill stops.
As compensation for your consideration of my request, I, Magos Hanuman, officially undertake to accompany you in the Rykad system in the role of bodyguard and to protect you at all costs until your life functions cease, but only within the limits of the Rykad system.
You're Hanuman? Glad you're alive. The governor raises his eyebrow and stares at the tech priest in surprise, but refrains from further commentary. No, please, continue. What's so unusual about his name? The governor looks at Pascal with curiosity. According to the reports we've received, Logis Abel Hanuman set off for the hallowed electrodynamic cenobium a short while before it was stormed. I'm glad to find out that you're safe. Perhaps you possess information on Master Van Kalox? Abel. That's the tech priest attached to the cogitator he suggested we investigate. Pascal's vox rasps in confusion.
My name is Pascal Hanuman, not Abel. I know nothing about such a person.
Medina, what do we know about this Abel Hanuman? I've never met him in person. That esteemed Logis supervised the work of Rykad Minoris' Lex mechanics for many years. However, he rarely left his cyber chapel, and I never had the honor of making his acquaintance. A true anchorite. And you say he left for the chapel right before it was attacked. Any idea why? When a Logis of the Adeptus Mechanicus wants to go somewhere, you don't ask why, your lordship. Fair enough. Anywhere else I might find more info? I would suggest that you inspect the esteemed Logis' sanctum, but it was destroyed by the rebels. We recovered several data crypts and connected them to the cogitators at the command post. They might provide you with some information. It is amazing that a mechanical voice from a Vox can sound so confused.
That name might have been used as a signal intelligible only to its intended recipient. In that case, its bearer might be Archmagos Amarnot. Initiating an investigation and data collection procedure.
Adira tenses up and listens. then turns around sharply to face Pascal. I can hear my friend's snide whispers through the door. Be careful on your search, Magos. If you stare into a shattered mirror for too long, you might see yourself in it. In every shard at once. Mending it is that much more of a tainted affair then. The new reflection is death-like. Oh, okay, well that's kind of on the nose. Yeah, I think I know what's going on. Thanks. Glad to be of service, your lordship. You know, while we're on the subject, Kramer over there is of the opinion that you're not providing enough support to his monastery. Any particular reason? With a heavy sigh, the governor wearily covers his face with his hand. Of course he does. That tech priest is very insistent. I ordered a squad to be dispatched to the Holy Cenobium of the Adeptus Mechanicus. They haven't been heard from yet, I'm afraid. This is all I can do under the present circumstances. I don't have a single soldier to spare here in the capital. Yeah, that's fair. Especially given that Pascal already noted that, under the current conditions, the monastery's SOP would be to seal itself off from outsiders and enable traps and deterrents. Honestly, given the setting, I fully suspect that first group he sent is already dead. Understood. I'll look into it personally. Medina, is there anything else in Ryket you think might warrant my personal attention? If you'd like a distraction, a smaller and safer uprising to suppress at your leisure, there is a planetoid in my system called Rykati-Philia. It hosts a prison colony whose inmates rebelled at the same time as the heretics on the planet. It's an all-around preposterous situation. It should have only taken us a couple of orbital shots to take care of them, but... The governor slightly purses his lips. Yvain Winterscale went there. He is a relative of my suzerain, the great rogue traitor Caligos Winterscale, the master of this system and a dozen others. I imagine the young Lord Winterscale is very eager to prove himself to his distinguished kinsman. I see no reason for you not to join him. It's a small planetoid. The prisoners' numbers are few, and they have little in the way of weapons. It's more of a sport for noble lords than a real rebellion. Yvain. Abelard mutters, stroking his beard. One of his distant, younger offspring, yes. That's as much as I know about him, which means he hasn't distinguished himself in any meaningful way. Yvain Winterscale has made several diplomatic visits to Urak V on behalf of his father. The Great Regent would never have granted entry to someone dishonorable, which means, no matter what happens on the planetoid, we must aid the Highborn. Yeah, I could certainly see some benefit to doing that. Medina? Whew, okay. Man, that was a hefty chunk of dialogue. My throat's starting to get raw. Mostly because of the growly Pascal voice, but I'm also just a little out of practice when it comes to the marathon text dumps. That said, lots of interesting stuff in there. Obviously, a lot more context on exactly what's going on. Not to mention, of course, access to a new vendor, who we'll finish dealing with next time around. I've still got to offload some goods, max out our rep, see what we can afford. Not to mention save some stuff for the pirates. See if we can max them out too. That said, this feels like a natural stopping point, so we'll hit the pause button for now. I'll take care of the usual off-screen bookkeeping, rest my throat a bit, and we will pick up here next time. As we grab a bunch of new gear, check out that cogitator, grab whatever clues we're able, and then I suppose set our sights on Rykati-Philia. Though I suppose we could also rush the monastery. I'll have to give that some thought. But either way, see you then. Oh, and special thanks to the Raiders, the fine folks who help make these videos possible, including but not limited to Revenant, Alois, CrowkingLoR, Dragon Matrix 7, Drakiith, RobbyB23, EgonAlter, Exsellsior, Gottlieb, James Trimmier, Kazorm, Mark Giemza, Nathan Welch Jr., OverlordPherom, RandomPassrby, RobbyB, Tomasz Piątkowski, Triphoppenskip, and Valinrook. Thanks for your support, guys. That said, if you'd also like to help support the channel, then feel free to push the buttons that do the things. Trust me, it does make a difference. Or you can even check out the PayPal, the Patreon, the Nexus GG, or the YouTube memberships. Links are in the description.
Rise to the top, or get left in the dust.